It's my last Locked On White Sox episode, and of course, the Cubs walked off the White Sox for my final recording. Mike Clevinger was solid. The second coming of Nelly Fox hit a home run, and Gregory Santos just could not get it done in back-to-back nights. Oh, and the White Sox could not execute with the bases loaded.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcoming you back for the final time here on Locked On White Sox. Thank you so very much for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong, die-hard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTV. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Chicago White Sox will take on the Colorado Rockies on Friday. Michael Kopech will be on the hill. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. State of the Sox. They are 48-73, 25 games under 500, 14 and a half games back in the ever-forgiving AL Central. What a way to end my run here at Locked On. What a way to wrap up this Crosstown series of 2023 in a very 2023 way for our White Sox. Cubs walked it off 4-3. Christopher Morel with a 3-run home run off of Gregory Santos. What a difference a day makes for Santos on Tuesday night. I mean, throwing darts with movement. I mean, he was on a mission. And back-to-back games, not so much. Sox offense did not help out the pitching. They were able to scrape some runs, but left a lot on the table. But again, very 2023 and maybe beyond. This has been going on for a long time for this White Sox team. But it was interesting. Jason Benetti made a note during the game, during the telecast when the Sox could not execute with the bases loaded. Just hopefully this is just a footnote. And here we go. The Cubs took advantage of it. And walked off our White Sox. Nick Madrigal, how about it, with a solo home run in the old basket against Bummer. I was listening a little bit to the game on the radio, and Len Casper had mentioned earlier in the game that the basket there in Wrigley was put in 1970 to prevent fans from jumping on the field. And the second coming of Nelly Fox, the guy that was going to be a staple at second base for the White Sox for so many years, Mr. 3,000 hit. He was able to get one off of Bummer. It was a solo shot, and it was the kind of the beginning there of some movement late in the game by the Cubs. Gavin Sheets with a 2-run home run, first home run in 2 months. But that is the way it goes. He runs into him every now and then. And what I'm curious to, kind of pay attention to and get some direction on, and I don't know if we will at all, as the season winds down and in the off season, what are the plans for the White Sox with Gavin Sheets? How are you using this guy? And, Benetti and Stone talked kind of at length after his home run about how difficult it is to, be able to kind of spot start every now and then, get in at bat every, few games or opportunities. They just aren't there because he's not a regular everyday player. At least, I don't see it in this White Sox roster. And would he be better suited, on a team that can give him regular at bats? Wondering if there's a team out there that, might be interested in giving the Sox something. I don't know what you're going to get, but then you're losing left-handed power, but it's left-handed power that you don't see very often. I mean, his first home run in 2 months, but it's because he's not getting playing time. But that's because where does he fit in this roster? So you see where I'm getting at. It was kind of a similar situation with Jake Berger of, what are you doing with this guy? In the Sox made choices and they went with those choices and they had to sell off Berger while his stock was high. So Clevinger was on the hill on Wednesday for the White Sox. Boy, 7 innings, which is a first for Clevinger in a White Sox uniform. Clevinger looked good on Wednesday night. 3 hits, 0 earned runs, a couple of walks, 7 strikeouts. A 3.26 ERA. He had movement. He was up 95 to 98 miles per hour. He likes going to the top of that zone as his out pitch, as a lot of White Sox pitchers have been using throughout the season when they have 2 strikes. He's a guy I've been tracking, and he's been using it consistently. It's like a rising fastball. He had a pretty tight off-speed pitch near the zone, bottom of the zone. He looked sharp, and wondering what's going to happen with him. Is he gonna does he have the ability to just opt out and do kind of an AJ Pollock and gamble against himself and say, you know what, I think I can make a little bit more than I would be guaranteed with the White Sox, based on the season that I've been having? I don't know. Maybe that's the case. And I don't know what the Sox do in this situation, because we have holes in the 2024 rotation big time. So we'll see how that develops over the last month and a half. But it was a nice outing from Clevinger on Wednesday. Sox offense, 3 runs, 6 hits, 10 strikeouts, 4 walks. It was wild pitch offense until Gavin Sheets had that 2-run home run. Sox were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Sox had the bases loaded, nobody out late in the game, and could not execute. Been talking about that, since I joined Locked On. And I think I've been talking about it on Good Guys Talk Back. That goes back 5 seasons. The inability to execute with runners in scoring position. First, it's being able to get a bunch of opportunities with runners in scoring position. Then it's executing. But something about bases loaded, nobody out, that has been just an Achilles heel for the White Sox. And I don't follow enough of the other teams all over Major League Baseball to know if that is something that is plaguing other teams in MLB. But it just seems like, when that happens, you can take it to the bank. Sox are just going to be shut out, in those moments. And at that point, it was like, well, it's kind of late in the game. It'd been nice to tack on a few more, but I think it was 3-0 at that point. Maybe Madrigal hit his solo home run. Sox had a nice lead and seemed to kind of have rocked the Cubs offense to sleep. And, you missed. You absolutely missed out there, and the Cubs came roaring back. Eloy Jimenez did not play. Surprise, surprise. Kind of fitting in my last Locked On episode to talk about Eloy Jimenez with another injury. Groin tightness this time for Jimenez. Day to day, Jimenez was out of the starting lineup for Wednesday's game against the Cubs due to groin tightness per WhiteSox.com. Manager Pedro Grifol said, according to Grifol, Jimenez's groin got a little tight running to first base in the 3rd inning Tuesday after he hit a grounder to Cubs pitcher Kyle Hendricks. Grifol said Jimenez is unlikely to be available Wednesday. He did not play. The White Sox will see how the slugger feels coming out of Thursday's off day They are scheduled to open a 3-game series, of course, on Friday against the Rockies. So I know I'll be continuing to talk about it on Good Guys with Pat. And, everybody talks about this, injury prone. He's not injury prone, really. It just seems like, every week, and sometimes it's like a series by series, there's a situation, there's a hamstring, there's a groin, there's a leg, there's, an oblique, there's just something is off with him. He's grimacing, after a swing or running to first. Again, how can you be our right fielder? How can you play right field regularly if you can't stay on the field? And then, I had these high hopes at the beginning of the year. Well, you know what? He's just going to be DH. But in the back of my mind, I knew this guy rips one in the gap, or he's trying to leg something out, something down the line, maybe stretch it into a double. He's prone to tear something, pull something just by doing that baseball activity. So again, I don't know what the future is for Eloy Jimenez. Most likely in a White Sox uniform as they try to somehow keep this guy healthy. At what point do you just say we have a big enough sample size? Like, you just cannot stay healthy. We've got to move on. We'll see on that. Colorado, Sox are going to be in Colorado for 3 games. I was out there several years ago to see the Sox Rockies. I had a blast. I really enjoyed the stadium, like the downtown area, lots to do, very walkable. Again, Colorado Rocky fans, no threat to White Sox fans. We had some good food, good drinks. I mean, it was a very fun city. So if you ever have an opportunity to get out there, gorgeous. And then you get outside of the downtown, and if you're an outdoors person, plenty of stuff to do out there. So should be a fun series if you are traveling. And again, race to kind of the bottom of the league in terms of standings. Some takeaways of mine during my run with Locked On White Sox. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their health hair wellness quiz. Identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting root causes of thinning, such as stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolic whole body health. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off of your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter promo code LOCKEDON-MLB. Our White Sox face off against the Rockies on Friday. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. We're coming to the close here. This is my final episode with Locked On White Sox. Started this journey about a week or so before the 2022 season. Here we go. Sox won the division 2021. A lot of excitement about this team. How are they going to follow this up? They've got unfinished business after getting quickly bounced in the first round at the hands of the Houston Astros. And it was an exciting time for, as a Sox fan. It really was. Never have the White Sox won back-to-back division titles, and it really felt that way. NBC Sports Chicago put out that meme or GIF or whatever you want to call it of, like, Will Smith looking around an empty living room from the, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air set, wondering who will anybody show up from the AL Central besides the White Sox. And there were a few teams that showed up. The Sox didn't show up, though. They were, a mediocre 81-81. And a lot of people called that one of the most disappointing seasons of their lives. And lifelong Sox fans. And yeah, the expectations were through the roof. But boy, 500, take that back for sure. And that's the sad thing, is that's where the bar is for us as Sox fans, is saying, well, man, that 500 looking pretty good right now. And that's got to break. That can't be where we're at as fans. We got to expect more. We have to demand more. This organization absolutely needs to change from the top down, the way they do things, the way they staff positions, the way they hold each other accountable, talking to fans, communicating. It's just an absolute mess. Things went really wrong with this rebuild, and it was tough times podcasting on a daily basis with what went on in 2022 and now in 2023. It's a grind. It's an absolute grind, because covering and talking White Sox baseball, diehard fans like yourself that tune in on a daily basis, they expect a lot, and they hold hosts accountable, and they should, because we do not have too many outlets for White Sox content. That's why I got into podcasting, so many years ago, is just I could not find, worthy, meaty discussions about the White Sox. Definitely not on, 670 or on 1000. And I don't know if the Sox were giving those stations much to even go on. You'd get a little, some hits here and there. It's always going to be a Bears town. Bulls will always be talked about. Hawks roller coaster since 2008, and the Cubs, man, the Cubs will always be the lead compared to the White Sox. It's just how it is. It draws interest, and I wanted to put something out there, because I thought there were other people like me that were starving for some White Sox content, just fan perspective stuff. I don't have media credentials. It's something, maybe that happens down the line, but just talking from a fan point of view, what I'm seeing watching the game, going to games, talking to buddies, whether you're out at a bar or, just at home, those kind of conversations, I wanted to bring that to life. And boy, I didn't realize what was going to be going down in 2022 and 2023. I don't think anybody could have imagined it. But again, you guys showed up a day in and day out, and, so many wonderful comments and the feedback, and great questions, and, adding into, things to the episodes and the YouTube comments. And there's a lot, that's the other thing, is people will say to me, well, what do you talk about in the offseason? There's always stuff to talk about if you are a diehard White Sox fan. There's always stuff to rip apart, from, the farm system to, different things that players are working on. I mean, then you go down the history, White Sox history, over 120 years of different anniversaries and different moments. And, going through this past offseason, you obviously had a managerial change. Pedro Grifol came in, and almost a whole new coaching staff, and what that was going to look like, and what their plans were. And so there's no shortage of things to discuss. And I'm so passionate about this organization and team. Fourth generation White Sox fan. You can make an argument, maybe fifth generation. I don't have any other second team or third team. This is what I have. And, this is the language that I speak with friends and family during these 6 months of the season, and even into the off season, when you get together for holidays or gatherings, and there's any type of Sox move that moves that have been happening, that's what you go to. So really appreciate you tuning in regularly and letting me be a part of your routine, whether it's first in the morning or in the afternoon, or maybe it's in the commute, or you catch up on the weekends. It has meant so much to me. So some of my final thoughts and time to say goodbye. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Use promo code LOCKEDON, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Predict the hottest baseball stats like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy baseball skills. Use promo code LOCKEDON, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. First-time depositors can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 using promo code Locked On. So swing for the fences with promo code Locked On and sign up, and you'll get a deposit match up to $100. All right, it is. It's time to say goodbye. I got to thank some of the folks that came before me. Chris Tannehill, Herb Lawrence, Sean Anderson. They did just an unbelievable job, of getting this thing going several years ago and creating passionate, meaningful White Sox conversation on a daily basis. That's few and far between. And when I got into podcasting, it was December 2018. It was during that off season where we were supposed to get Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. And, I was like, I like doing this. I like doing this once a week. I could probably even do a couple times a week. And as I started, doing it more and more, I got that bug, and I just said daily would be great. Bringing White Sox content daily, and listening to Locked On years ago, and inspiring towards that, and to get the opportunity to follow Sean, at the beginning of the 2022 season, that has been it's been meant the world. So it doesn't happen without you, though. Tuning in and passing this along to other Sox fans, and all the support, from other podcasters and other Sox fans that have come on and helped me make sense of what this organization is doing over the years, sometimes during the dog days and sometimes in the dead of winter, getting a perspective. And it's, I don't want to leave anybody out, but so many guests that have given me their time, and mailbag episodes, the wonderful comments and emails and suggestions, whether it's been on Twitter or in YouTube or at the Gmail account. I try to respond and read to just about absolutely everything. And it's given me a lot to think about and chop up sometimes, and different perspectives. And, what I've found, though, is, when I hear from so many fans these days, there is such a disappointment. There's a love for the White Sox. It means so much to them. It holds a place in their lives like it does with me. And what is going on with this team, that we dedicate time and energy and money, it's sad. It really is. There absolutely needs to be changes. And I think it's going to be a rough go towards the end of this season, but I'll be watching. That's the thing. I can't stop. I've tried to stop. I think I've talked about it on this podcast. I've tried to stop, and I just can't. I'm White Sox absolutely first, second, and third. I'll follow the Bears when they start up, but I'll be still following the White Sox continuously, and everything into the off season. So I've talked about it so many times before, and thank you again to Pat Hester, my co-host for Good Guys Talk Back, who joined me on the most recent episode. That's where I will be at now, creating regular content. It's a weekly show. Try to get, sneak in a couple other episodes throughout the week, especially when news breaks for our White Sox. But there's a YouTube channel. Would love for you to subscribe if you can stomach another White Sox subscription. We can just be found on YouTube. Search Good Guys Talk Back, and we've got the audio absolutely everywhere. We're on Twitter at Good Guys TB. I have not received any information on who the new Locked On White Sox host is. I apologize. You all deserve much better. I'm sorry to keep you in the dark. I have not heard a word. I knew there were a couple interested parties, but no word yet. So hopefully that happens soon. But again, can't thank you all so much for what you have given your time, which I think is so valuable. And you've done it over and over consistently, and you've passed this podcast along. And I thank you so very much. Again, we are on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find Locked On Sox absolutely everywhere and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Sox take on the Rockies on Friday. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. And those everydayers, you've reached out to me. You know, I know who you are. You know who you are. And just so much appreciation for your support, your listenership. Appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.